Hello and welcome to our fourth episode of The Gracious Patriot. We're so grateful for the wonderful interest shown in our channel already. Please subscribe and tell a friend to help ensure the success of this venture. We want to thank you again for tuning in. From our last episode, we left with the American Army gripped in the terrible winter of 1777. On this windswept plain, about 13 miles from Philadelphia, the ragtag American Army shivered in the cold. The awful winter of 1777 would see 2,500 of the 11,000 soldiers die. Things looked very bleak for the cause of freedom. Seeing this, George Washington wrote a long and pleading letter to Congress. From his freezing and drafty tent, he wrote, "What is to become of the Army this winter? We have no less than 2,898 men now in camp who are barefoot and otherwise naked." A Connecticut soldier named James Sullivan Martin wrote this: "We arrived at Valley Forge in the evening. It was dark, there was no water to be found, and I was perishing with thirst. I searched for water till I was weary. I felt at that instant as if I would have taken food or drink from the best friend I had on earth by force. I am not writing fiction. All are sober realities." What were they to do? Give up? Go home? Surrender to the British? Raid their own people? Desert? Rather than give up or surrender or have a pity party, General George Washington ordered his men to build a small town with long huts. When visiting here, Thomas Paine observed, "Like a family of beavers, everyone is busy, some carrying logs, others mud, and others fastening them together. A neat little town arose. Meanwhile, General Washington remained in his tent until most of the men had a log hut. Only then did the general move into the stone house owned by Isaac Potts. The men rallied around the general that suffered beside them. They were inspired by a visit to Valley Forge by Martha Washington. General Nathaniel Greene went to work to get the supplies they needed. The soldiers engaged in the professional training they so badly needed. The war began turning around at the Battle of Monmouth. Even though most historians call it a draw, the Americans did force British to withdraw to New York. Even here, Washington stopped a retreat from the segment of his army and got them to turn around and fight. Supporting troops caught up to them, and Washington felt it not wise to press his advantage due to the weariness of his troops on this hot day. In the night, the British slipped away to New York. It proved to the Americans that they could go toe-to-toe with the British. Through this confidence, they built the momentum that, coupled with the invaluable help from the French, allowed them to win the war. The Battle of Monmouth captures succinctly Washington's value in war. Had he not been there to rally his troops, even this battle would have been lost. Well, friends, without Christ's leadership, we will lose the war against Satan. We need the Lord to rebuke him, Jude 9. We need him to be our advocate, our Lord to be our advocate, 1 John 2, 1 and 2. We need him to be our sin offering, 2 Corinthians 5:21. We need him to be our redemption and our propitiation, Romans 3, 24 and 25. The Apostle Paul said, "For he himself is our peace, who had made both one, that is Jew and Gentile, and broken down the middle wall of division between us, having abolished in his flesh the enmity, that is the law of commandments contained in ordinances, so as to create in himself one new man from the two, thus making peace. They might reconcile them both to God in one body to the cross, having put to death the enmity thereby. And he came and preached peace to you who were far off, and peace to you who are near. For through him we both have access by one Spirit to the Father." Here he's talking about Jew and Gentile, Ephesians 2, 14 to 18. While no one can really be compared to Christ, Like Christ, Washington was first in war against the British, like Christ is against Satan. Again, like the incomparable Lord, Washington was first in peace once that war ended. Similarly, Christ is our peace, making wrong relationships right. We'll pick up here next time on The Gracious Patriot. We hope to see you then, Lord willing. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe.